Hi everyone, how you doing? Um, First of all, can you hear me okay? Hello, hello. Hmm. There you are. Hey Tom, can you hear me all right? Hello? Can anybody hear me? Hi, howdy, howdy. Is the sound? Oh, good. Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Hi Roy, how's it going? Um, I've been on a Watt sabbatical. What's going on? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Hey, Healer 74, how you doing, man? Uh, Giovan, Redskins. Wow. Hey, Clive. Great, great. How you doing? Tennessee. Hey, Mike. Okay. Um, that's good to hear. Um, Richard, Alex, how's everybody doing? John, is that see that would be John from let me see if I get this right. From Croatia, is that right, John? That's cool. All right, Alex, um, Randy, Jim. So, what's the whole Ginault deal, and why should we care? Hi, Eric. Um, David. Good. I got it right. Okay, so what's the whole Ginault deal, and why should we care? Well, it started off in sort of an interesting way, and the Scotsman bought a Rolex, and hey, jury, and um, it turned out not to be a real Rolex. Gilberto, jury, um, and instead it was some knockoff. Hey, Bruce, June, whew, hey, Carolina Smoke, Eric, Mason. All right, so uh, um, let's talk about this, okay? So it's sort of a detective story. This guy gets ripped off by some outfit that's been making, it's been identified uh, somewhere in Asia is making um, phony Rolexes. Okay, hey, Hung Barlow. Um, Jack, how's it going? And so, all right, so he's all upset, and who can blame him? Okay, all right, watch the aficionado. And so he's digging around and he finds out that Ginault and this company um, was were part of they were somehow related. Okay, and so this is what I wanted to talk about now. Not so much just this instance. Okay, here's the specific instance. This guy gets ripped off, gets a phony Rolex. Okay, and that shouldn't happen. Period. The the anybody who pays a lot of money for a watch shouldn't get it. Now, some people may say, well, he should have known, or yada yada yada, because if the price is too good to be true, it probably is, and so forth. Well, we can all talk about that as buyer beware and so forth. But what I was thinking is that the there is there's sort of a underlying, I don't know what you call it, almost a stream of corruption, and sometimes uh, watch buyers, watch collectors get involved in it themselves. They start justifying the behaviors, and come on now, guys, we're really important in the sense that were it not for us and millions of other people who buy watches, buy mechanical watches, you know, the watch companies wouldn't do very well. Now, the watch companies themselves, Rasher, how you doing, man? Rich buddy. Um, so these are related, okay? And so I've told this story before, but I bought a watch and I took it to a guy who was a watchmaker who knew his stuff, and he said that's not that the watch had some phony baloney name on it that the manufacturer, who was quite well known, had put on there, and they didn't say that it was an ETA, and it was. Well, I that sort of set me off on almost like on a crusade. Now it turns out that the watch itself, in so many other ways, was a wonderful watch. It really was, and the whole sort of culture that is there, because I called Switzerland and asked them about the watch, and I did all of this other stuff, and well, yeah, it was their watch, they made the watch, but then they're not telling me the truth and about what was inside. So I can now what happened to this guy, the guy in Scotland, was 10 times worse. Okay, hey Beale, um, so Angelus, um, this is the kind of thing is that okay. Uh, I don't want to talk about how Rolex owners feel that they've been treated by Rolex, okay? Because a lot of them say, "Wow, they treat us rotten," and so forth. That's true. Pradeep, how you doing, man? Um, so the what I wanted to get your vision of or your wisdom on is this: is that how many different ways are do we get taken advantage of? All right, yeah, we got a hobby and we're fools for doing all of this old technology that's archaic and so forth. Okay, fine. And we are really encouraged to to buy these watches, and they talk about craftsmanship and they talk about these great movements. Speaking of which, I've got on my FP Journe chronomet resonance, and haven't had it on for a while, so I thought I'd show it to everyone. Okay. By the way, too, I bought this watch, and it came with no box, no papers. And what I did is that I went to the boutique in New York City and had them look at it. The first thing that I did was that I had them check, and they looked at the number on the back and to see if it had been stolen. Well, it hadn't been stolen. That was the first thing. The second thing was that they took all of these. They took it down to basement. They got a basement at FP Journe. I'd love to go there someday in New York. And they took these pictures and they did some stuff, and then they after doing that, they sent them to Geneva, and Geneva went all over them. And like I said, I didn't have any of the papers or anything. Then they got a hold of me a little later and said, "We got the papers uh, from Geneva." And so I said, "Oh, great." I said, "Yeah, your watch is okay." And so they said, "We're going to send you the papers." Well, they sent me the papers, and it was guaranteed. It was hand signed by FP Journe. And so I'm feeling pretty good about that. In fact, on my other FP Journe, there's this little bitty card they give you with a hologram in it, and I guess something else, and that's supposed to be your thing. I'd rather have the one signed by FP Journe. But the point is that I guess we all should check on these things. Clyde said, caveat emptor, buyer beware, and that's certainly true. But and the Scottish guy, this was his first luxury watch he buys. He buys a Rolex, which was to me, that is what new people new to watch collection buy. I did the same thing. I didn't know much about watches and stuff, but I heard that Patek Philippe was a good watch, and so I went out and bought a Patek Philippe because I thought that was the way to go. Now the one I got, I was very fortunate. I did some things I'd never do today. I wired the guy money. It was all kinds of stuff like that, and ended up to be very fortunate. I got a great watch, but that doesn't always happen, and especially when you get something as popular as a Patek Philippe or a Rolex. So anyway, so now, so the Gene Martin just said Ginault doesn't really tell us about their movements. Okay, there are two different things here. One is that Ginault, who's not telling you about their movement, does exactly the same thing as Cartier does, as Breitling does, as Panerai used to do. I guess Panerai has all their own movements now. Hey, Deacon, and 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 so the that's one thing. And so what Ginault is doing, not telling you about the movement, is what so many of the other ones do. And so it's not like, so what else is new in Watchland? Us not getting told everything. What Ginault has done is that their association with these other guys is very iffy. Okay, now let's yeah, Sin is very transparent about their movement. I like that. I mean, because so is Steinhardt. People think, oh, Steinhardt's a crummy watch. Hey, they're an honest watch. You get what you pay for with a Steinhardt. I can't say that for a lot of other watches. Okay, so hey, thanks, Gilberto. Um, so let's talk about this. Okay, now you get the Gene said Ginault doesn't really tell us about their movements. They should probably say assembled in the USA rather than made in the USA. I don't believe or trust them. Okay. Um, how much is Ginault charging for? Now, Rich, buddy, I don't know about that. That's a good question. How much is Ginault? They call it an homage. Hey, and that's something. Um, IWC also, right, John? That's another good example. Okay, so let's see what. Hey, Clyde, they keep getting your messages. Okay, quarter eyes, LOI, Clyde, good one. What was the good one? I missed it. They took away your message. Okay, English. You don't want to read my book. Um, the let's see. Okay, Squally's still okay, right? Ducks behind a wall of sandbags. I don't know. Is Squally? Are they honest about their movements, Clyde? A lot of these stereotypes. This sort of bugs me. There's certain sort of sophomoric comments about certain watches that are repeated from one idiot to another, and I don't want to do that. Hey, Paul. Um, the Guten Abend yourself. The what I what I want to do is like you know it's one simple thing, and that is know what we're getting paid for and who's doing it and who isn't, and we shouldn't put up with it. I don't think we should. Somebody gets a Steinhardt, for example. The Steinhardt, that's an Ami homage or whatever they call it to a Rolex. So it's got a similar design as Rolex. Let's face it, guys, Rolex doesn't have exactly the most difficult design to copy. I mean, they've got circles and square and rectangles and triangles, and that's about it. Um, the and that's not a criticism of Rolex. I'm simply saying that not a hard one to copy. You take on the other hand, one I was looking at today was a Dubuis and Sympathy. What a watch! And if you look at the movement, even more work to be done. Okay, Squally, Singapore. Okay, listen, we shouldn't be ethnocentric either. I think whether it's European, the U.S. doesn't have much in terms of developing our own movements except RGM and right, it's RGM, Roland RM, Roland Murphy's outfit. Or is it RGM? I think that's it. But the some Seikos and some other kinds of things, and there are a lot of independent Japanese and Chinese who are doing some very interesting stuff. So that's important to get rid of all of this ethnocentrism. Um, centered around Switzerland or Europe or something like that. So hey, Javier, so we need to open up on that again, going back to the fact that we need good information. Okay, how many Rolex model are displayed back? Not many. I'll tell you which one, Deacon. The only one I know of is the one I like, and that's this Cellini Prince. The other ones aren't, I don't think. The Watch Lounge. Hey, what's up, Watch Lounge? What's going on? What's your email? I was going to send you some pics. Oh, for your collection. Look, Watch Lounge, here's what to do. At the very end of all of the videos, you'll see this little thing and it'll have a link to a video that I made on for you guys sending me stuff for collections. And by the way, please send them in. I've been, and it doesn't really matter how modest or grand um, your collection is. Uh, they're interesting. They tell us about a real person who has collected watches, and our resources different all over the place, and so do our taste. And if you have a lot of money, uh, that's one thing, and you have a different set of choices as if you don't have a lot. And some of the most interesting ones I've seen are guys who really don't have a lot of money, but they're very smart about their movement choices and their watch choices, and I like that. Oh, by the way, tomorrow we got a really neat collection review. But in addition to the collection review, there's sort of a cherry on the top at the end. What I may have found is what I call the inverted Jenny. And if you don't know what the inverted Jenny is, you'll find out tomorrow. Okay, Vladimir, how you doing, man? If our outrage, if they're oh come on, man, buy Akita but sold Maiden. Nah. By the way, too, they're not chopsticks, Vladimir. They're called quoits. Okay, Eric, I've got nothing against Weiss, but Federico really doesn't like them at all. Weiss. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. Did Paddock actually explicitly state that they use JLC movements when they advertise for their older models? I don't think so. Yeah, watch aficionado. Now, here we have another thing. We got sort of the new and the old. Um, Tom, the the back in the days, we'll talk about sort of time one and time two. Time one is sort of pre-quartz, and pre-quartz, they were using all kinds of different movements in the watches, including Rolex. Okay, hey Kaz. So anyway, the after the quartz crisis, they had to invent something to sell watches for a lot of money. Okay, that's where the whole concept of high horology came out. And so suddenly these high horology watches come out that they had finely finished movements. They started putting in exhibition windows so you could see it, and all of this is going on. Well, it seemed to work because you know it, that's what happened. But then these other companies came along and said, "Hey, we want to call ours high horology or call them luxury watches and sell them for a lot of money, like Vacheron Constantin and some of these other ones did." And so but they were putting in these ETA movements, which are relatively inexpensive, yet charging a lot of money. And so then the whole thing about, well, let's see some in-house movements, and so that was a whole other kind of thing that's going on. Weiss, yeah, Jack, thanks about that. Jack, the Weiss makes American watches. I know that. Oh boy, um, I'm trying to think. There's some other guys. If Weiss is the guy in LA, if he's the guy I'm thinking about, he some of the movements are pretty close to some other ones, and I don't know whether they're sort of fixed up other movements or there was something from scratch that are his. So that's uh, if they are his, great. I'm glad to see Americans making their own movement. You know, the other kind of movement I'm getting to like a lot more, some of the old Hamiltons, is that I saw this Hamilton movement not long ago. I thought, wow, this is really cool because they had a individual bridge for each one of the gears. And if you're a pretentious watchmaker like myself, that's one of the hardest things to do when you take them apart and put them back together is trying to get all of the gears back in underneath a big bridge or a plate that has like 3 or 4 holes for them. Hamilton, that's a ticket. Okay. Um, okay, Eric Nelson. Yep, yep. Panerai. Yeah, Panerai. Oh, Bomb at Mercier. Yes, that's another one. Um, you know, I don't know. I think that oh, what's their name? Maurice Lacroix. They started making their own movements, and I think they were fairly forthcoming. I'll say that about which ones there were. The the thing of it is that they also use some other movements, and this is something. There's a whole other group of movements that are not in house, but they're not ETA or Solita or they're another sort of set that seems to be emerging. I'd like to talk about that. Maybe we can do that next week. Okay, most expensive ETA is resin. You know, here again, let's not pick on ETA at all, any of them. Okay, I've got nothing against ETA. ETA has some of the best movements that ETA has. In fact, most of the best movements are from old Valju or Pazu or one of the other ones that they sort of got when there was a consolidation of all these movement brands. Okay. No, I know you don't. I just was saying what I don't like and never have liked isn't the fact that they have an ETA movement, but rather they're not telling us about it. So hey, Sushi, how you doing, man? ETA two Brutus. That's a good one. All right, yeah, ETAs are great. In fact, I like Seagulls. I like the Seagull clones of ETAs. I think they call them STs or something like that. If you're making watches as a pretentious watchmaker, you may destroy a lot of movements like me. So it's less expensive to destroy a Seagull than an ETA. And but some of the other ones that I started to move into is looking at some other ones. All this is penis compared to Ginault, who's a criminal. Okay, Eric. It, it, this is, but there's why is Ginault a bigger criminal than all these other guys who've not been telling us the truth about what's in their watches? So it becomes to me sort of like the women at their weekly flower club, all fainting on a say, oh my God, they can't say or do that. But while the same stuff is going on all along with these other, better recognized kind of companies, so that's what really bothers me. I don't like what Ginault's doing, and the fact that they're associated with a company that makes uh, uh, counterfeit. That's criminal. One is just sort of, as Clyde would say, greasy, and the other is criminal. Vladimir, what's that? Don't ETA movements have some plastic parts? Not that I know of. Hey, quarters. Let's see. Shinola are another problem company. They lie to their customers. They don't get. They got caught twice for lying about where their watches were made. They are not Swiss. They are not, and they're not built in U.S. I didn't know that. Okay, hey, crappy IWC Mark. What is that? That's 18 uses Solita 400. Fine with me. Yeah, it's fine with me too. But IWC doesn't tell you that. IWC gives them some phony baloney caliber name, and yeah, I've got nothing against Solita either. In fact, the Solita 200 A is the one they use in some of the courses that they have because they're considered to be better than the ETA that they're replacing. Watch, let's see, that calls their Lamania movement CH277. There you go. Yes, CH is for Swiss, I think. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah, uh, Vacheron Constantin and a lot of these other ones don't. But it's like I was reading about what Vacheron Constantin did to the Gerard Perregaux movement that went into the original overseas. And first of all, they put in not a cheap movement, but a good movement, and they really did a lot of work on it. They were, in fact, Gerard Perregaux was having some problems with a particular movement. Vacheron Constantin fixed them, and then they enhanced the movement itself. So you can have that, and it's like, and then of course they gave it another name. So and I think to some extent these are some of the things that we have to deal with. What happens, I think, more than anything else, and why you don't see it in these little bitty guys. There's this Chinese guy who's an independent watchmaker, and he made four different movements, and he did it within, like, I don't know, he did it on his coffee breaks or something. And these are real; these aren't rip-offs of anybody else. They are really very good ones. Look at what God, I can't think of his name, Oshilich or something like that, did with the perpetual movement. You know, Patek Philippe used 200 and something parts to it, and Oshilich or whatever his name was used nine. I mean, these are the kinds of things. This is why I like these independents better. Okay, you only have 5 minutes left. Oh, before your wife puts you back in the cage. Thanks, Deacon. Wilson watches. Okay. All right. Yes, I did. Randy. The website is called watchbase.com. It's something that everybody should know about. Now, they don't have all of the information, but they've got more than any other single one place that I know of. I'd rather have any watchmaker tell us that they are using X movement from whomever rather than using their own movement caliber number. Um, well, Gene, to me, I don't care. They can call it, Kalamazoo for all I care. I just want to know what it is. Um, okay, a lot of watchmakers use ETA to in-house transformer trick. Some do it right, like Ressence and Christian Vanderklaw. A lot do it wrong. First of all, jury is online. I don't think Christian Vanderklaw doesn't use ETAs. Um, they had one. Well, actually, they have more than one model, but one model in particular, and they were using Sopard A10s. And the Sopard A10 is based on a Seiko, I think it's like L4 or something like that. That was Seiko's initial attempt to get into the luxury movement. And the only thing ETA about it, I think, is the big mistake people make. They say, oh, this is an ETA clone. What it is that a lot of the things that are considered ETA clones aren't clones at all, but rather what they are is that they make them with certain dimensions so they can fit into a fairly standardized case that are mass produced. And so rather than having, somebody goes up, some rep from a movement company and says, look, if you use our movements, we've made them so that they'll fit into that same case, but they're nothing like it otherwise. And so that's a big difference, other than simply trying to copy ETA because their patent rights have run out. Okay, you would think most people would be happily accept the truth in movement. Yeah, I do too. I think what the problem is that these companies want to charge the high horology prices. and it costs them much less to stick in an ETA than it does to have an in-house. Here's the problem with in-house: designing it's only part of the problem. If they have the right people there for it, what the big problem is getting the whole manufacturing element set up. Once they have that, uh, then they can use the movement for a lot of different watches. Let's see. This is not a good example. Um, One that Vacheron Constantin has, I think it's called a 4400. It's a hand wound movement. It's used in my Historique American 1921. Okay, but it's also used in several other ones too. And it would be crazy for Vacheron Constantin or any other watchmaker to spend lots of time developing a movement and then only using it in one watch. The 5100 that was first came out in the overseas also is used in the Hualil, I think how you say it, which is another neat watch that people overlook. Okay, weren't a lot of Solita makers originally making movements for ETA? Yes, they were. What it was that ETA couldn't make enough to satisfy everyone, so they subcontracted out to a lot of them to Solita. Okay, so it's an ETA clone. Look, like I said, I got nothing against an ETA, and they're not ETA clones. An ETA clone assumes that they're exactly the same. What a lot of them are, like the Soprod, are, and some of the other ones, they are designed to fit into. I mean, there's like um, you have a base and then you have post in them, and so they'll fit on the post or the in different places, so you don't have to. So you can't go to a if you're selling movements, you can't go to a watchmaker and say, hey, these are really great movements, but you're going to have to change your entire production of your cases in order to deal with them. They don't want that. Plug compatible Mason. That's a good way to describe it. That's more what's going on than a clone. 6490 98-1, one of my favorite movements. Love that movement. Um, okay, is exactly like ETA, sometimes a little better. Some of those are, Yeah, I agree. There's that Solita that I mentioned. I think it's either 200 or 210 or something like that. I know that movement well. I destroyed one. I took it apart, and it was relatively small. And the thing about taking watches apart, there's a black hole of parts, and so you take it apart, and all of a sudden, boom, one of the parts has disappeared. And I don't know. Now that Stephen Hawking's gone, we're not sure where they went. Okay, is the FTC going after Ginault? God knows. I don't know. Federal Trade Commission. Boy, that's a good question. I don't know. Um, Favorite brand that uses a Solita movement? Hmm. That's a good question. I don't. Does anybody know of one that right now is using Deacon? If you put an ETA into a gold case and it told the correct time, then wouldn't ignorance be bliss? Deacon, that's exactly right. That's pretty much what happened to me, except the one I had was actually a very good one. But here I had this great big case with this little bitty movement inside, and so with a bigger case, you get a bigger charge to it. And so but it wasn't running for 42 or 48 or 64, anything like that number of hours. That thing would last a day before I had to rewind it again. Oris and IWC are using Solita. Yeah. Cinna's my favorite with Solita. Okay. Makes tweaks so they are even so slightly different than the original ETA. Sometimes those changes made them slightly better. Yeah, this is according to Fry. If you go to Auto Fry, they say the Solita that they're using for their courses, which is the wrong one. If you're learning how to make watches, get an ETA, which is Unitas 6498 or 97. Those are nice big pocket watch size, and they're great to work with. I mean, to learn on, and then you can go to something smaller. Swata plus one. Randy, thank you. Hey, John, how's it going, man? Um, whoops, I hit my computer. Sorry. My accuse. I'm not accusing anyone. Here's what I'm trying to do, Clive. And we all ought to do this. We get taken advantage of. I mean, we really are not treated very well. And, and and again, I'm not picking on Rolex buyers, but you listen to these poor guys, and Rolex did this and they did that to me, and ain't it awful? To me, okay, if they're going to treat you that way, go to someone that treats you better. Um, FP Journe treats you wonderfully well. The problem is they're really expensive. Um, Trying to think who treats. I I, that's one reason I like them so much. Um, you know, Let me see. Let me ask you guys. A Parmigiani watch is dairy free. Okay, yeah. JLC made me a coffee. That's great. I love JLC. I've had. They're really great. Um, okay, Deacon. What else? Um, Clause nothing. My favorite movement is a Pazu ETA 7001. I love those movements except for one thing. They have a very small charge to them. You wind those things up every day, and they want to be wound up again the next day. Sin uses a lot of Solita. Let me see, Clive. Watch any pray. Recommend ETA 2824 for 40 millimeter watch project. You know, Watch any pray. The ETA 2824, if I'm not mistaken, is an automatic. I don't like automatics. Hey, Bill A. I don't hate them. I got a lot of automatics. I just like wind up ones. You get to play with it more. This one, man, I tell you, if you like winding watches, this is great because it has you have to take the top band off, you wind it up here, then you pull the tab out, and then you turn it one way, and that gets the watch on one side, and then you turn it the other way, it gets to the watch on the other side, and then there's a little puller down here. You pull it out, and the seconds are synchronized. And this is, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the second hands on the little subdial on the bottom, the identical ones, they're exactly at the exact same time, and that's what FP Journe wants to do with residents. And this he got all crazy because people, including myself, at one time was using them as dual timers and didn't like that. Hey CFZ, how you doing, man? Yeah, you're late. Sorry. Um, yeah, you can just found this. His beret was made in Mexico. So what? It wasn't. It was. I have made in Paris. Okay. I think the one I'm gonna send you. I don't know where it was made. Okay. Yeah, I know. Not cheap. Yeah, you're right. Jury's online. I like hand wound. And it's just the thing now. Some of my favorite watches are automatics. My Hemisphere is, my Kalpa is automatic. My Harry Winston's automatic. Let's see what else. I got a few more. My Zenith is automatic. But it's like playing with them, and especially if you're going to make your own watches, which is a lot of fun. Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I'm over. I have to go back to my cage. So anyway, guys, thank you all for coming, and um, take care. Watch out, And if you find out anything more about this Ginault thing, let us know. I think it's really an interesting thing going on. Brooklyn Bridge, Panerai stuck to the lowest tier ETA possible, hit it behind a solid case back, and charged thousands. And you know the funny thing about that 318, the Brooklyn Bridge, now it's considered valuable because there, there are these people say, "Oh man, they gotta have it." Okay, guys, we'll see you. Take care and and try not to get screwed.